Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chapter 8 Global Stratifications. Now we want to talk about, after social stratification in certain countries and certain societies, now we want to talk about global stratification. At first, again, we have some questions for you to deeper thinking about. Does poverty look different around the world? Is there any different criteria for determining poverty level at the different levels and different countries of the world? Have you ever wondered how your life would have been if you were born and lived in a different country? Think about it. Right place, right time, and right person. And how is per capita gross national income related to life expectancy? We have some fundamental and basic discussions here in the course of sociology about the outstanding and external aspects of your life. For example, the relationship with per capita gross national income and, for example, your happiness or life expectancy or life satisfaction. Some psychosocial aspect of human being. At first, we want to know about the chapter outline, wealth and poverty in global perspective all around the world, problems studying global inequality, classification of economies by income, measuring global wealth and poverty, global poverty and human development issues, and theories of global inequality. Again, we have some questions, specifically 8 questions about living the state of poverty. Poverty has been increasing in the United States, but decreased in other nations because of globalization. How do you think about it? After the new systematic ordering systems in the world, so-called globalization, what is the effect of globalization on the United States level of poverty and also on the other countries level of poverty? The question or the sentence says that poverty has been increasing in the United States, but decreasing in other nations because of globalization. How do you think about it? Is it true or false? Is it false? The assets of the world's 200 richest people are more than the combined income of over 50% of the world's population. The assets of the world's 200 richest people are more than the combined income of over 50% of the world's population, about 4 milliard people or billion peoples. How do you think about it? Is it true or false? It is true. The assets of the world's 200 richest people are more than the combined income of over 50%, half of the resting of the world's population. More than 1 billion people worldwide live below the international poverty line, earning less than $1.25 each day, $1.25 each day. How do you think? More than 1 billion people, now near 8 billion people live in the world. More than 1 billion people worldwide live below the international poverty line, which is defined as earning less than $1.25 each day. Is it true or false? True. 1 billion from 8 billion people, is it near 12.5%? One from each 1/8 of the general population all around the world live below the international poverty line. Although poverty is a problem in most areas of the world, relatively few people die of causes arising from poverty. Is it the cause of dying people, poverty, or not? Is it false? Also, poverty has a lot of suffering over the human life, but generally it is not the cause of dying. In low-income countries, the problem of poverty is unequally shared by men and women. Is there any gender-related, gender-focused, gender attention, gender orientation, and gender bias to the poverty between men and women? In low-income countries, the problem of poverty is unequally shared by men and women. Is it true or false? Yes, it is true. The majority of people with incomes below the poverty line live in the urban areas of the world. Is it true or false? Is it false? Not in the urban areas of the world. Two-thirds of adults 50 years and older worldwide who are not able to read and write are men. Two-thirds of adults 50 years and older worldwide who are not able to read and write are men. We are talking about the literacy, about the writing and reading. Is it true or false? No, it is true, false. Final question about living the standard of poverty is poor people in low-income countries meet most of their energy needs by burning wood, dung, and agricultural waste, which increases health hazards and environmental degradation. Is it true or false? Is it true or false? Yes, it's true. At first, we should provide you a definition of global stratification. We have two types of definitions: conceptual definition and operational definition for everything. You should have, sometimes we don't have, but you should have, we should have two types of definition for everything in science also, not in philosophy, not in mysticism, not in religion, not in culture, but in science and scientific study of everything, in systematic studying of everything, like for example, sociology. Because sociology is scientific study of human societies and social interactions. For this part of studying everything, we should provide two types of definitions. One, conceptual definition, and two, operational definition. Now, we want to provide you a operational definition of global stratification. Global stratification refers to the unequal distribution of wealth, power, and prestige on a global basis, resulting in people having vastly different lifestyles and life chances, both within and among the nations of the world. Global stratification refers to the unequal distribution of wealth, power, and prestige on a global basis, resulting in people having vastly different lifestyles and life chances, both within and among the nations of the world. We have some keywords here. At first, wealth, power, and prestige, three elements of global distribution, and different lifestyle and different life chances, nations of the world. Okay, you can see income gap between the world richest and poorest people from 1960 to 2010. Richest with the orange color and poorest with the green color. Okay. Global inequality. We have two parts here: the three worlds approach, the HDI approach, and the GNI approach. HDI, Human Development Index, and GNI, Gross National Income. And after that, we will talk about low income economies, middle income economies, and high income economies. The three world approach, one of the approach to global inequality. We are not thinking, we are not talking about the theories for global inequality. It is something like criteria for uh, defining the global inequality. We have three criteria. One of the criteria is the three-world approach. Second one is the HDI approach. And third one is the GNI approach. In three worlds approach, introduced by social analysts, they think and they talk about two criteria, two indices. One, levels of economic development, and two, the standard of living of their citizens, life standards, and economic development. Based upon this approach to inequality in the around the world, global inequality, we have three worlds: first world, second world, and third world. Also, it is very common to talk about the third world, but we have also first world, second world, and third world. And one of the greatest thinkers and one of the pioneers in defining these concepts was uh, the basic leader of Chinese Revolution, Mao Zedong, and Mao Zedong, and he talked about the different cultures, different mindsets, different socioeconomic, and accessing to natural resources and accessing to technology and different levels of accessing to these two parts: resources and sources and technology. Some countries have good resources. For example, I think near 20% or 25% of all around natural resources is in my country, in Iran. 20% or 25% of all the natural resources in the planet of Earth is in my country. But it doesn't mean that the income per capita is very high, because we need some good and some high-tech technologies to use and produce the goods from those resources and sources. So for the balance between the natural resources and with the technology to produce, to mining the resources and to convert them to the goods, is different balances. Some countries like America, like Europe, has a lot of good technologies, high-tech technologies, and some countries like my country has a good resources, and some country, again, for example, Japan and Chinese are a good combination of different parts, resources, and also human resources, human being, human data sometimes, and other things. Based upon these different elements, especially about the elements of levels of economic development and the standard of living of their citizens, one of the approaches, first world and second world and third world, or three world approach. First world. The phrase first world is used for rich, industrialized nations. Rich, industrialized nation. For America, for example, America, or previous Russia, USSR, because the division and the definition is for the time that Russia was not divided to different countries. In that time, it was called USSR. I think it is United Soviet Society of Russian, or something like this. USSR. In that time, America, USSR, and some part of Europe, especially Germany, was the part of first world, rich, industrialized nations. What can we talk about the level of economic development and the standard of living of the citizens? We can talk about capitalist economic systems. One of the greatest criteria for defining the first world is the economic system is not socialistic, it is capitalistic. It is capitalist economic system that, the major part of the world for capitalism is United States as an economic system with a lot of advantages and also a lot of disadvantages, and democratic political systems. So money, capitalism, and democracy are the major part of defining their first word. High capitalistic economic system and also high democratic political systems. In the second word, we can see a moderate level of economic development, not very low, not very high, and a moderate standard of living, something between democratic political system and authoritarian democratic system. Although quality of life in second world nation is not comparable to that of life in the first world, but it is for greater than of people living in the third world. A lot of European countries are in this grade for the second world, although there is different from the democratic political system and capitalistic and in the degree of industrialization of the third world. Okay, but it's so greater that the political system so better, much better than political system and level of social isolation and income per capita in the third world. But the third world are the poorest country, little or no industrialization. At the level of industrialization, we cannot see any good level of industrialization, little or no industrialization. The lowest standards of living. We can see the poverty line here in this grade of world, in this part of world. No, it is not a geographical. Also, a lot of, for example, third world, second world, and first world, a lot of countries in these categories are near together, but not necessary to be in the same, for example, geographical area. So, lowest standards of living. Shortest life expectancy. We will talk about the life expectancy. One of the greatest measures for measurement of quality of life is life expectancy. How many years do you expect at the birth time that you will survive? The age of the years of your age. And the highest rate of mortality. There's an adverse effect between life expectancy and mortality rate. Higher life expectancy, lower mortality rate. Highest mortality rate, lower life expectancy. You are alive or dead. Mortality rate is relative to the amount of people that will die in a specific certain period of time. And life expectancy is the longitude and long time perspective of your life, and at the aspect of your age, bachelor years you will survive. The second approach, the second part to look at the global inequality is based upon the HDR. What is HDR? Human Developmental Index. Human Developmental Index is a very, very useful and popular, not popular in general population, popular in economical and political decision makers. HDI is very ordinary, very popular. It's a statistic composite index of one, life expectancy, two, education, three, income. Life expectancy, education, literacy rate, gross enrollment ratio at different levels, and net attendance ratio. It is very important. Net attendance ratio, it is very important criteria for talking about the effective education to increase the mindset, to improve the mindset in a country. A lot of countries, educated people only go to university and will receive some degrees and a good job without any change in their attitude as an adult citizens of their country. So they don't have any mature uh, contribution to their society, to the change, social changes. They are also so passive and they don't think about the destiny of their society of the next for the next generation. It is called not attendance ratio. Attendance ratio is very important as a social attendance and social contribution of people of the population of a society. And per capita income indicators, we have several indicators for per capita income. It is very important about the Human Development Index. Why? Because the final things, and sometimes in poor countries, the first things that people think about is money, not volume of money. It is the ratio of money. And per capita income indicators show that how many money, how many dollars, as for example, international acceptable exchange, how many dollars can you earn, can you receive during 1 year? As we said, it is about 1.25, $1.25 per day for poorest countries. It is a catastrophe. HDI is used to rank countries into four tiers of human development: developed nations, developing nations, less developed nations, underdeveloped nations. Developed nations with very high HDI in three aspects, in three index: life expectancy, education, and per capita income. Developing nations are, yes, high HDI. They are in the process of developing. They are not in the final point of developed nations, but they have high HDI. Less developed nations, medium HDI, medium life expectancy, medium educational level, and medium net attendance ratio, literacy rate, gross enrollment ratio at different levels, and also medium per capita income. And underdevelopment countries or underdevelopment economies, they have low HDI, very, very lower life expectancy. Short time, for example, 50 years. 50 years is very, very short time as a life expectancy. And for example, some countries, the highest, the popular highest degree is high school degree, not in any academic, any college, any university degree for a great portion of the general population of those countries. And also per capita income, we talk about it, $1.25. It is about, yes, 100 to 125 cents. Catastrophe for their living. They are underdevelopment or underdeveloped countries. We can see the criteria, the indexes of HDI. 1/3 is for health, 1/3 is for education, and 1/3 is for income. So healthy life, long and healthy life is related to life expectancy, and knowledge, it is related to education, and standard of living is about the per capita income. Dimensions, we have three dimensions: long and healthy life, life expectancy, knowledge, and decent standard of living. And indicators of child mortality and immunization, adult literacy rate, combination enrollment rate, and income. These are indicator. And dimension index are health index, education index, and income index. So we have three indexes: health index, education index, and income index. Finally, we have GNI approach to global inequality. We have two simple but a little different phrases here. Also, they are economic phrases, but interdisciplinary phrases. Because, for example, in consumer psychology and uh, also in sociology, also in economy, also sometimes in, not sometimes, a lot of time, in political science, we use these phrases. So these are very interdisciplinary. A lot of human sciences, humanity-based sciences, sciences related to human life, like political science, psychology, sociology, sometimes, for example, public health, they use these phrases. So you should know, and you will see these phrases in different courses of your bachelor degree, for example, program. Gross domestic product, GDP, it is very famous. All the goods and services produced within a country's economy during a given year. Only within a country. But GNI, it is not about domestic product. At first, it is not about domestic. Secondly, it is not about product. It is about income. As you know, by the tax law of United States, as a US citizen, when you earn money all around the world, in each country outside of America, you should pay tax for that income. So it is national income. It is not related to producing the goods and services only within the geographical area, geographical limitation, geographical borders of United States. So gross national income, or GNI, says all the goods and services produced within a country's income in a given year, plus the net income earned outside the country by individuals or corporations. So we have GDP, gross domestic product, and GNI, gross national income. And we have GNI approach. Gross national income, a term that refers to all the goods and other things. Country, the World Bank assigns that the world's economies to four income groups: low income economies, lower income economies, five, middle income economies, middle upper income economies, and high income economies. The classification are updated each year on July 1st and are based on GNI per capita in current USD of the previous year. So you can see here, in low income economies, low middle income economies, middle income economies, middle upper income economies, and high income economies. So we have three parts: low income economies, middle income economies, but high income economies. Between low and middle, this is low middle income. Between middle and high income economies, we have middle upper economies. For low income economies, you should have GNI per capita of $1,045 per year. If your yearly income or your country GNI per capita is per person, each person, gross national income, summation of all the incomes of the citizens of one country divided to the amount of those population. Per capita of $1,045. It is low income economies. If it is GNI per capita more than $1,045, but less than $4,125. It is low middle income. Middle income economies, it is more than 145, but less than $736. It is middle income economies. If it is 145 to 4, $125, it is low middle. If it is between 100, 1045 again, but 12,736, it is middle income economies. If it is more than $4,125, but less than $2,736, it is middle upper income per year, GNI per capita. And high income economies are more than $12,736 or more. They're high income economies per year. GNI per capita calculating using the World Bank Atlas method. As the students of management sciences, as the students of business sciences, you should know the Atlas method. Please go to internet and learn about it, and especially learn about World Bank. It is very, very important for you to know very accurate about some organization. One of them is World Bank. You can see, quick review our concept we have discussed until now. Low income economies, middle income economies, high income economies. In previous categorization, low income economies was called third world or underdeveloped countries. Middle income economies are the same, second world or developing economies or developing countries. And high income economies are the first world or the same developed countries or developed economies. Per capita income or GNI for low income economies is $1,035 US dollars or less. And for middle income economies, we have two parts, lower middle and upper middle. More than $1,035, but less than $4,085, okay, it is lower middle. And more than $4,086, but less than $12,615, it is upper middle. More than $12,616 or more is high income economies. And we can also talk about the type of economy. In low income economies, the majority of the economy is related to agriculture industries or agriculture, not industries, largely agriculture. In middle income economies, we have diverse from agriculture to manufacturing. And at high income economies, information-based and post-industrial economy. We can see this graph is for 2018 world regions by total wealth in trillion US dollars. North America is the greatest part, and you can see Europe after that. After that, it is about Latin America, it was Asia Pacific, China, only one country, and Latin America and other parts. Okay. But measuring global wealth and poverty. Again, we are talking about GDP, as we talked about before. It's all goods and services produced within a country, only within a country's economy during a given year. We have three types of poverty: absolute poverty, relative poverty, and subjective poverty. Absolute poverty. In absolute poverty, people do not have the means to secure the most basic necessities of life. The most basic necessities of life. They don't have any secure tools, and they should be always protected. They didn't have any, they don't have any self-protected means, self-economic protected for the basic necessities of life. So the key word in defining the absolute poverty is basic necessities of life. Measured, how can we measure the absolute poverty? Measured by comparing personal or household income or expenses with the cost of buying a given quantity of goods and services. Measured only one person with his or her own situation for gaining, for receiving, and for using his or her basic necessities of life. So, absolute poverty is measured, is calculated by comparing personal or household income or expenses with the cost of buying a given quantity of goods and services. The World Bank has defined absolute poverty as living on less than $1.25 a day. $1.25 a day, not an hour, a day. And relative poverty. People may be able to afford basic necessities of life, but are still unable to maintain an average standard of living. So in relative poverty, we are not talking about the basic necessities of life. We are talking about the average standards of life. But measured by comparing one person's income with the incomes of others. One person's income with income of others. Here, in absolute poverty, we use only comparing personal household income expenses with the cost of buying and quantity of goods and services. But here, in relative poverty, measured by comparing one person's income with the income of others. And subjective poverty. It is about your mind. It is about your mentality. An individual perception on his or her financial, material situation. As we can say, those who say that they feel poor represent subjective poverty. It's your feeling about your poverty situation. The Gini coefficient measures the degree of inequality in the distribution of family income in a country. It is a coefficient which is used a lot in the sociology and economic sociology. At the final part of our discussion, we want to talk about the theories of global inequality. We have modernization theory, dependency theory, world system theory, and the new international division of labor theory, and it is over after that. Modernization theory is a perspective that links global inequality to different levels of economic development and suggests that low-income economies can move to middle and sometimes high-income economies by achieving self-sustaining economic growth. It is very important. It is very important. Self-sustaining economic growth. Modernization in one country, in one nation, try to gain modernization, to get modernized over the time, for example, over the previous and last 10 years. Now, we can see some countries, they have self-sustaining economic growth. That's good. Why not? Second one, it is dependency theory. States that global poverty can at least partially be attributed to the fact that the low-income countries have been exploited by the high-income countries. It is sometimes about conspiracy theory. Why we are poor countries? Because we are exploited by the rich countries, by the superpowers, by the modern countries. by the industrialized countries. Also, it is not honestly conspiracy theory. It is something like conspiracy theory. It is a theory about why we can see a lot of global inequality all around the world because some countries are exploiting other countries, or some countries are exploited by other countries. Low income countries will becoming lower and lower and lower, and high income countries will becoming higher and higher and richer and richer. Poor becoming poor, 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 and rich becoming richer, richer, richer. It is dependency theory that says because of dependency between one country to economy and economic behavior and political behavior and exploitation desire to exploiting other countries, it is dependent. It is not independent from other countries. The third theory about the global inequality, it is world system theory. In previous theories, it is modernization and dependency theory. We were talking about the 2 or 3, for example, country. In modernization theory, we are talking only about the one country, single country, and not dependency to other countries. It is related to you, to your nation, to your thinkers, to your students, to your owners, and other people that prove and improve your grow and improve your country. In dependency, it is related to other countries, but in world system theory says, examine the role of capitalism, and particularly the transnational division of labor in a truly global system held together by economic ties. It is talking about the all around the world system theory. In this chapter, in this perspective, all the nations are divided to 3 parts: core nations, semi-peripheral nations, and peripheral nations. Core nations are dominant capitalist centers, characterized by high levels of industrialization and urbanization. They are core nations at the core of capitalism. The central role of capitalism is because of them, and particularly the transnational division of labor. But peripheral nations that are dependent on core nations for capital, have little or no industrialization, have uneven patterns of urbanization. These are peripheral nations. So the first and the highest part, capitalistic countries, are core nations. The lowest part are peripheral nations. Between them are semi-peripheral nations. Semi is a prefix that says half of something. Half of something, it is semi of something. Semi-peripheral, it is half peripheral, half core. More developed than peripheral nations, but less developed than core nations. Between peripheral nations and core nations, they are higher than peripheral nations and lower than core nations. In world system theory, it is relatively a new attitude to global inequality, to global unfair distribution of power and money. And the last part is the new international division of labor theory. It is very, very new theory. The new international division of labor theory suggests that commodity production is being split into fragments that can be assigned to whichever part of the world can provide the most profitable combination of capital and labor. It is very important in this attitude to division of labor. It is very important. Why? It is international, not national division of labor. And it is not talking about the power distribution between the countries as, for example, core countries or peripheral countries or first world or second world and third world. It is talking about the division of labor based upon the capital and labor. So it says that commodity production is being split into fragments that can be assigned to whichever part of the world can provide the most profitable combination of capital and labor. For example, lower cost employees, lower cost workers. What part of work we can use for as the labor work? Every part of the world that labor work is cheaper, not expensive. So it is very good. All the work are together to produce so cheap and not so expensive. In this part, you can see also the modernization theory, dependency theory, world systems theory, and finally, the new international division of labor. And question for critical thinking, you have decided to study global wealth and poverty. How would you approach your study? What research method would you provide the best data for analysis? What might you find if you compared your research data with the popular presentation, such as film and advertising of everyday life in low and middle income countries? The next question, how would you compare the lives of poor people living in the low income nations of the world with those in central cities and rural areas of the United States? In what ways are their lives similar? In what ways are their lives different? And the third critical thinking question, should US foreign policy include provisions for reducing poverty in other nations of the world? Should US domestic policy include provisions for reducing poverty in the United States? How are these issues similar? How are they different? It is very important question for thinking about, especially in that part for reducing poverty in the United States. And the final question for critical thinking is, using the theories discussed in chapter, devise a plan to alleviate global poverty. Assume that you have the necessary wealth, political power, and other resources necessary to reduce a problem. Share your plan with others in your class and create a consolidated plan that represent the best ideas and suggestions presented. Thanks for being with me, and I hope that you will use this video lecture a lot to understand your courses. Bye-bye.